So we literally had stunts go and rig up on our set with wires, and actually had these characters being slammed around and
the cat then maybe meets the eye, like a pocket universe full of tentacles or something like that.
something like that, yes.
As you're starting to...
And you look at the comics and you look at poster art and you look at the art that's been done of what is the Flurkin? This monster sort of thing that bursts out of this cat and then goes back inside again. And I think the fun part was our being slammed around. So we literally had stunts go and rig up on our set with wires, and actually had these characters being slammed around and moved previous time. And we figure out exactly how, what the moves need to be based on what the tentacles are going to do. So you sort of work backwards. That's where visual effects sort of fits in the middle, as it were.
Is this large fight between the two of them?
And is this sort of big, wide scope of things. There are maybe 40 or so real, actors in full makeup and prosthetic masks and helmets and costume and everything else running around in that sandy sort of quarry digitally. It's really a mix between the sort of the traditional sort of stunt work and visual effects.
There is an epic falling. It is harrowing. How do you place that? Because obviously we can't drop Brie Larson.
Yes, moving her around in the blue screen suits, and they're using that to try and puppeteer her to make it feel like she's floating. And we used a lot of that, not only as some of it is literally in the film, also a lot of it was just used as reference so that we can see how Brie's body moves in a particular way and how the costume moves in a particular way when she's doing a particular thing with her arms or legs. We also...
But it's just right here.
And it's just here, and all we're capturing is just her face and expressions. And we take all of that information, and then we would map that, we would project that onto a CG version of her. So what you see in the final film is generally a digital version of her falling, but with her performance mapped on, her face put onto the digital version of her. A bit of storytelling that we were trying to do in there. There's a lot of exposition that happens in that room. There's a lot of sort of definition of the characters that happen, from massive green hexagonal blocks to liquid worlds to almost Salvador Dali sort of art. We went through all sorts of things, but eventually ended up back at this very minimalist, sort of almost a white room and a clean room. And the idea being that you can almost, and things get a bit more violent and aggressive, and then the room itself begins to collapse. And it was a really interesting challenge to try and figure out how to create something which would sort of satisfy both the...
Flurkins contain these pocket dimensions that don't just help hold those pink tentacled maws. No, they can also carry anything up to the size of a whole dang universe. Simply put, Flurkins are bigger on the inside. Eggs, like lots of eggs, like a crazy amount of eggs.
Yeah, it's a lot of eggs.
Mm-hmm.
But don't say anything mean about these cute little fluffs because they actually have human level intelligence. So brains and beauty and tentacles.
And tentacles, watch out for the tentacles. So you learn something new every day. I love that. Well, hey, let's keep the fun rolling.